It's February now, yay! And if I had actually read anything in January, this video would be my January wrap-up. But I read one book in January, and it was a reread, so it wasn't even a new book. I reread My Flawless Life by Yvonne Woon. I love that book. I read it as an audiobook. I actually listened to it while I was editing some of my previous videos, so that was fun. All that to say, January, not the best reading month for me. I am trying to get back into it though, so I thought let's be ambitious. It's Black History Month. There are so many authors, Black authors, that I haven't read yet. So many books that have been on my TBR for ages, that I've owned for ages, that I haven't read yet. Let's be ambitious and get to all of them this February. Especially because of a certain president's ascension to power. I am nervous about the state of books. Already there is evidence that book banning has increased, and of course at the center of these book bans are books by Black authors, books by queer authors, books by other people of color, other marginalized communities. And so I wanted to really highlight Black voices this February. I think it's important every February, but this February particularly. And so I decided, okay, since I'm being ambitious, let's hold myself accountable. Let us put this on the internet so that I have to get to these books. Because, God, I read one book in January. I can't do that. If I keep this up, I am not... Oh, God. So I looked through my physical TBR, and then I went to the library and checked out a shit ton of books. Probably too many, but like I said, we're being ambitious. So let's jump right into it. Starting off, I'm gonna be reading a book that I don't know how I haven't read it yet. Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I even have the signed copy of this book, guys. Like, why do I own a signed copy of this book that I have never opened once? I even remember I bought this in January of 2023, so 2 years ago. I've been holding off on reading this book for 2 years. And yeah, okay, there's the excuse that I want all the books to be published before I finally start reading them. The problem with that is that I keep on buying these goddamn books. I bought the special edition this time. Like, hello? Why do I keep doing this? So I am vowing to get to these books this February because it's a crime, just generally a crime, that I haven't read these books yet. Next on my physical TBR is a book that has been banned before. It is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. George M. Johnson has written some really, really good nonfiction works, and I have a copy of this book, and I've had it for, 2 years now. Actually, I think I got this one at the beginning of the school year it's been more than a year regardless. This is a nonfiction memoir, George M. Johnson's memoir. It's written for young adults, and it basically just goes into being queer and Black in the United States, which, as I mentioned, these are really important narratives to be upholding, particularly right now. Also, I love this cover. It's really, really beautiful. And then last for my physical TBR, I'm gonna get to my advanced copy of Immortal Dark. This book published last year, so advanced reader who? Not me. Anyways, I kept seeing this book on social media. I kept seeing the author post about it, and I was like, it's dark academia, vampires, obviously people of color centric. I think it's also sapphic. So I was like, obviously I need to read this book and get my hands on an advanced copy. And I did, and then I didn't read it. So that's fully on me. This is pitched as The Cruel Prince meets Ninth House, and I haven't read either of those, so honestly it doesn't really mean much to me. But I think it's like a revenge story where the main character is hunting for the killer of her sister, and then as part of that kind of quest she has to infiltrate this vampire school, this vampire academy, which just sounds beautiful. It sounds amazing. Now moving on into my library books. I had an idea of the books I wanted to get when I went to the library, but then I saw a bunch on the shelves that I was just like, let's do it. So one of those was Flamboyance, which is also by George M. Johnson. And the subtitle for this is The Queer Harlem Renaissance I Wish I'd Known. So this is another nonfiction kind of queer narrative. I'm also really into history. I'm a history major, so I'm hoping that I can get some historical enjoyment out of this as well as literary enjoyment. And then kind of in the vein of nonfiction, this is Slave Road by John Edgar Wideman, and because I just saw this on the shelf and took it, I had like absolutely no idea what it was about. It looks like it's gonna do a deep dive on a few historical figures that kind of evade conventional histories that are told in schools and things like that. It's a combination of historical, narrative, and fiction elements, which I find really, really interesting. So I'm excited to get to this as well. Moving away from nonfiction, there are so many fiction and fantasy books that I have seen everywhere and needed to really get to. The first of which being Raybearer, this series. I have heard nothing but good things about this, but somehow it seems to be underrated. This is kind of like a competition story. I think the main character is competing to be selected to be like on the upper echelons of some like noble thing or for royalty. Yeah, I really don't know. I'm gonna go in pretty blind for this one. For fantasy books, I kind of enjoy going in blind and just letting the world and the pages speak for itself. But I'm excited to get to this because, again, I've heard nothing but good things. And then my final physical library book is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. This is part of the Sapphic trifecta, and it's, again, one of those books that I have seen everywhere, and it's been on my TBR forever, but I have never actually picked it up. And to be fair, I don't think I've read any of the other books in the Sapphic trifecta, which is another crime to add to my many list of crimes. I am a little bit intimidated by how thick it is. It's close to 500 pages, which I am a little bit scared by, but we're gonna do it, okay? We're gonna do it. And then finally, I have a bunch of books that I'm gonna read as ebooks, and those include The Final Strife by Sara El-Arifi, Feybound by Sara El-Arifi, Prince of the Palisades by Julian Winters, and Wayward Lives, Beautiful Experiments, Intimate Histories of Riotous Black Girls, Troublesome Women, and Queer Radicals. I am so excited for all of these books. The Final Strife in particular, because I'm pretty sure the main character is a trans girl, and I have not read enough stories with trans main characters despite being trans myself, so I'm especially excited for that. I honestly, again, don't really know what's happening. I go into fantasy pretty blind, but I am excited for it, and the cover is very beautiful. Same thing with Feybound, but I heard so many good reviews when it came out. I had a bunch of friends who received advanced copies of it, so I am very excited for that book. I actually own a copy of Prince of the Palisades by Julian Winters. I was sent a copy by Penguin Teen. Obviously didn't get to reading it. I think it's pitched as Young Royals meets Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is like, yes, please. I would love that. But it's about this prince who goes to America to clean up his public image, and it's a romance story, and that's all you really need to tell me. And Julian Winters is one of the most consistent authors I've ever read. I have pretty much loved every single one of his books. I think he does romance really, really well, and he also kind of digs into nerdiness, which I really like. So I'm excited for that book as well. I keep saying that I'm excited for every single one of these books, but it's true. I am excited. And Wayward Lives, Beautiful Experiments was a book I think that was recommended to me by one of my friends. They've done a lot of reading into feminist history, black history, queer history, and I think the intersectional focus that this book has on black women and then black queerness and then black queer women, I think that's important, and I would like to learn more about it, so I will be attempting to read this book this month. Oh, I forgot. I have another physical library book I want to read, and it is Wander in the Dark by Jumata Emil. I read Jumata Emil's debut novel, The Black Queen. I was sent a copy by Get Underlined, and I love that mystery so much. And so I just saw Jumata Emil on the cover, and I was like, yes, I'm gonna check that book out. This is about a black boy accused of killing this white girl who he kind of had like a thing with. Basically, he's the only person who's at the crime scene, but he did not do the crime. And he has to team up with his half-brother to kind of clear his name and figure out who actually killed this girl. And it's a story about family, and it's a mystery, and it's suspenseful. Because I love Jumata Emil's writing in her previous book, I am very much looking forward to this one. So my final TBR count for February is 13 books. 4 are from my personal physical TBR, 5 are from my library physical TBR, and then the other 4 I will be reading as ebooks also checked out from my library. My priorities this month I have got to read Legendborn. If I don't finish Legendborn this month, something drastic needs to happen in my life. If I read one book in February, it has to be this one. Like, it just has to be. And then following close behind that, one of the 2 George M. Johnson books. I need to read at least one of those. But I am really excited to get to all of these books. They all sound so interesting. And I think it's, especially important to read diversely as we go into this new year and new administration. So let me know what books you guys are reading, if you're planning anything specific for Black History Month, if you've read any of these books in the past, if you have other recommendations for me to read this month. Thank you so much for watching, and if you would like to, please subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up and a comment, or I don't know, tell me to go to hell. That's fine too. And I will see you guys next video. Bye bye!